you, Jeff. Thanks for the introduction. I'll go ahead and turn off my camera and I'll start the presentation. Just one moment. Okay, all set. Jeff, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the session on universal design and health and wellness strategies for senior housing. My name, as Jeff already said, is Sam Telichia, and I'm a senior accessibility consultant within the accessibility team at Stephen Winter Associates. My background is in architecture, and I focus on providing accessibility consulting services to help our clients meet local and federal accessibility requirements that apply to their projects. Overall, as a team, we provide guidance from the design phase all the way to construction, and we assist at all project stages. And while I've been here at Stephen Winter Associates, I've had the opportunity to work on many senior projects, and mostly on the East Coast. And I'm also a member of the AIA New York chapter of the Design for Aging Committee. Just briefly, just to mention what we do at Stephen Winter Associates, we are a collective of people who are passionate about making buildings perform better. And for over 45 years, we have provided consulting services to improve the built environment. We have over 125 employees in New York, DC, Boston, and in Norwalk, Connecticut. And our staff allows us to provide a wide range of consulting services, including sustainability, energy conservation and management, green building certification, and accessibility consulting, which is what I do. So before I begin with the presentation, I just want to give a snapshot of our seniors community. By 2060, about 23% of the population will be over the age of 65, compared to about 16% in the last couple of years. So in other words, it's almost going to double by 2060, up to 95 million people over the age of 65, compared to 52 million just a few years ago. So it's pretty much expected that the seniors population is more likely to have some form of disability. In fact, as many as 2 seniors out of every 5 is expected to be in this situation. Listed here are just some of the top health concerns that affect the senior population. And as designers, we need to consider how these medical conditions will impact the population for which we are designing. And speaking of design and construction, it's not a secret that buildings affect people's health. Among the many factors that impact people, the built environment is a significant driver of either positive or negative health outcomes. And now with people spending more time indoors for obvious reasons, or because of the weather, or just because they're not able to go outside, it's important to have buildings that promote well-being of the occupants, especially those that are most vulnerable. And like I said, now more than ever, it's been pretty evident. So just to mention our objectives for today and what this will be about, I'll explain how health and wellness and universal design are interconnected. And I'll also talk about some design strategies that promote health and wellness and universal design and how these strategies can be implemented. Finally, I'll explore some of the benefits of health and wellness and universal design strategies for seniors. So for this presentation, we have drawn inspiration from dynamic duos, which are any couple that complement one another, make each other better, and together are greater than the sum of their parts. For this presentation on senior housing, we'll be highlighting another iconic pairing, which is health and wellness and universal design. Think of health and wellness as a peanut butter to universal design's jelly. The two go really hand in hand. And looking at each component specifically, I'll start with health and wellness. How buildings impact the human health is not a new area of research, but it has been gaining momentum, especially over the last few years. and like I said, recently as well. So there have been many research initiatives like the impact of green buildings and cognitive function study, and also design guidelines such as the one from the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Healthy Homes Principles. These have helped catalyze a greater awareness of how buildings affect people's well-being. We also know that the term healthy buildings can take on a range of meanings and manifest in various ways. Here at Stephen Winter Associates, we promote health and wellness by pursuing certifications under specific building standards like the ones listed on the screen, by properly sizing and commissioning a building systems and equipment, ensuring that spaces are accessible for all occupants, regardless of ability, and as well as tracking and collecting data on key health metrics like outdoor air, relative humidity, and particulate matter. Now, looking at the other half of this dynamic duo, we have universal design, which is deeply rooted in creating comprehensive environments for people of all abilities. As initially conceived, universal design was focused on usability issues, the design of products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. In the last 10 years, however, this emphasis on universal design was expanded to address other issues of social inclusion. And this comes a lot from the Idea Center at SUNY Buffalo. And it's more relevant to citizens to all citizens without ignoring people with a disability. And this newer definition sort of states that it is a process that enables and empowers a diverse population by improving human performance, health and wellness, and social participation. So in short, universal design is here to make life easier, healthier, and friendlier for all. There are 8 goals that universal design focuses on: body fit, comfort, awareness, understanding, wellness, social integration, personalization, and cultural appropriateness. Please note that the goals incorporate human performance, health and wellness, and address contextual and cultural issues going beyond the initial conception of universal design as only related to usability. As far as wellness is concerned, the goal is to contribute to health promotion, avoidance of disease, and prevention of injury, which is very relevant to our seniors population. Now, I just wanted to take a quick detour and talk briefly about accessibility and the difference between accessibility and universal design, because there is a difference. One of the limitations of the accessibility laws like the ADA or the Fair Housing Amendments Act or any local building code is that they mainly set prescriptive guidelines to prevent discrimination in buildings. This, of course, is very valuable. Universal design, however, goes above and beyond by being more inclusive and less of a one-size-fits-all approach, which happens to be the perception of some of these accessibility guidelines. Even if certain chronic diseases like asthma can be considered as disability under the ADA, we really need to look at seniors and people with disabilities under a wider lens when designing the built environment. So, how can universal design impact public health? From a disability perspective, it not only promotes increased structural access beyond what is required by federal law, but it also encourages design strategies that result in a more usable environment for a wide range of abilities. And like I mentioned, it contributes to avoidance of disease, prevention of injury, and mitigation of disability-related symptoms. Now, from a health perspective, universal design strategies promote flexible, usable, and intuitive spaces that can reduce anxiety, promote safety, and increase social participation, thus resulting in healthier and more equitable environments for all building occupants. So how can universal design specifically impact the lives of seniors? Well, simply by incorporating health and wellness and universal design strategies, we can protect the senior population from health issues and design to support changes that occur due to the natural process of aging. And this is where it really comes together. Because for buildings to be truly healthy, their design must be inclusive and flexible enough to accommodate current and future needs. For today, I'll be focusing on 4 key overlapping areas that can specifically impact the health and well-being of senior populations. These categories are lighting, thermal comfort, indoor environmental quality, and active design. And I'll start with lighting and explain why it's important for seniors. Approximately 1 in 3 people will have their vision affected by age 65. So you can imagine vision problems only increase with age, and it's a top cause for disability among the senior population. There are many different conditions that could affect seniors: macular degeneration, glaucoma, cataracts, dry or tearing eyes, and these are all very common causes affecting seniors. Vision impairment not only makes it difficult to perform tasks as cooking and bathing, but also simple tasks like shopping or reading or taking a shower. You name it, there are many conditions many situations that can be caused by poor lighting and combined with vision issues. Good lighting is essential for seniors because it provides a safe environment where seniors can move about without coming across obstacles. And it helps prevent falls and allows people to make the most of the spaces they inhabit. And speaking of falls, it's a known fact that they are life-threatening, and it sometimes happens to be the point between like before and after the fall. Everything changes, and it's a very common situation. More than 1 in 4 people over 65 fall every year, and many times these falls can end in can cause serious injuries. So some of the design strategies that we identified are to mitigate glare, optimize lighting, and to implement controls with the intent of providing good lighting to improve the quality of life and increase safety. Our first design strategy is to mitigate glare. Sensitivity to glare increases as people age, and it's primarily due to the dispersion of light and the changes in the aging eye that make it easy for bright surfaces to irritate the eye. There are 2 types of glare: direct and reflected. Direct glare can happen when staring at a light bulb or staring at the sun, and reflected glare is when you see light reflected from a surface. So this can cause discomfort to the person, and it could even temporarily disable them. One thing to remember is that older eyes take longer to adapt to changes in light, and they find contrast difficult to deal with. So among the design strategies, consider providing surfaces that are non-reflective, avoid hotspots, and consider the contrast between surfaces. For example, value contrasts like white and gray and black are easier to deal with when there are, as opposed to with a color contrast, which are harder to navigate. Another design strategy is to optimize lighting. The lack of appropriate lighting can lead to decreased acuity, so people need to be able to adjust to different levels and direction of light. Uniform lighting, for example, can help people adjust to changes in lighting, while diffuse lighting can help conceal bright surfaces or sources of light, while also helping to reduce shadows, which can sometimes create confusion. Task lighting is another essential component here because it allows people to have the right amount of light without causing unnecessary strain in the eyes. So lighting that allows a person to deal with the task, whether it's cooking or reading, can be very, very beneficial. And lighting can also be optimized further when its color temperature is controlled to align with our internal circadian rhythm, or the internal clock that regulates the wake-sleep cycle. For example, blue-enriched task lighting during the day when necessary for comfortable viewing. For as long as possible, before sleeping, reduce the light intensity and use blue depleted or warm toned light to enhance sleep. You might be familiar with this if you have an iPhone. At least I know that my phone will switch to a blue depleted light after 10 p.m. or so for this same purpose. And another reason is to help maintain a well-tuned circadian clock. This is also to provide direct lines of sight to the exterior and natural daylight. Another important aspect of lighting is to implement controls that allow the user to regulate the amount of light in their space. I mentioned task lighting, but it's also important to ensure that controls are located at accessible locations and that the operable parts do not require grasping, pinching, or twisting. So think of toggle switches that are easy to use, considering that many seniors suffer from cognitive impairments or arthritis, and also consider providing dimmers so that the occupant can regulate brightness levels. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that if possible, try to use switch plates that are contrasting in color to the wall so that they can be easily found. And finally, providing shades that can help block light infiltration and help improve sleep can in turn promote mental health and physical health. Just like I mentioned before, keep in mind that shadows can create confusing patterns, can even be a trip hazard, and also with any cords that might be part of these shades. Just keep those in mind. And the next category is thermal comfort, which is defined as a condition of mind that expresses satisfaction with the thermal environment and is assessed by subjective evaluation. The 9 foundations of a healthy building takes the concept a step further and uses the term thermal health to encompass all ways temperature and humidity affect people beyond the sense of comfort. Within the realm of thermal comfort, unfavorable temperatures and humidity levels can cause a variety of wellness concerns. For example, cold and dry spaces, which is very relevant right now, at least for us in New York. They're known to facilitate the spread of viruses because low humidity allows for a virus to persist longer in the air. And also the lowest temperatures can extend the virus shedding period. So this is a concern for a very vulnerable population, as you know. And also low relative humidity can cause discomfort by causing dry eyes, dry skin, and mucous membranes. On the other hand, warm and humid indoor spaces are a prime environment for mold and fungal growth. So mold and fungus can produce allergens, irritants, and in some cases, potentially toxic substances. Additionally, when indoor environments are too warm, they can impact a person's mental well-being, such as creating a negative mood or feelings of fatigue. So how to mitigate these issues? As we age, our bodies become sensitive to cold temperatures because of a decrease in the metabolic rate. Our aging bodies are not capable of generating enough heat to help maintain normal temperatures. In addition to this, the thinning of the skin is another factor that contributes to feeling cold for older adults. On the other hand, we have heat waves. You're in California, are very familiar with these as well. They're a major cause of mortality globally, and they cause thousands of deaths each year. And also, not to mention many health concerns. The strategies listed here are a few ways that our built environment can mitigate exposure to extreme temperatures and humidity. A first step in creating a thermally stable environment, which requires a well-insulated building envelope with minimal thermal bridges. Thermal bridges are locations where conductive materials allow for heat flow across thermal barriers. So to put it simply, right now here in my apartment, I have old windows and I can feel the air coming in even though the heating is on. And you get the same feeling if you walk across a cold basement. So it's important to design floors, walls, and a roof that have uninterrupted insulation so that the indoor environment is able to maintain a more even thermal conditions regardless of the exterior conditions. Eventually, the goal is to maintain consistent and comfortable temperatures and humidity levels throughout the entire day. Now, in addition to a robust thermal envelope, it's important for design teams to specify efficient space conditioning systems that are properly sized to specific building conditions. While oversizing HVAC systems might seem like a good way to ensure that a building is getting enough heat or air conditioning, it can actually make it harder for the heater or air conditioning to maintain a consistent temperature and humidity level, leading to potential discomfort or even waste of energy. So regarding benefits to seniors, it's important to have air-conditioned spaces that can protect against heat-related mortality by providing a thermally stable place of refuge. If a building is not air-conditioned, indoor temperatures can actually be higher than the outside. And as you know, with the climate change and extreme heat events, this increases the likelihood of heat-related issues and mortality. So it's important to be able to control the thermal parameters in buildings. It's a critical public health issue. Another key thermal comfort design strategy is to provide individual level thermal controls. So this basically means a person should be able to have the ability to choose their optimal temperature. So this immediately, I think of my parents who live in Arizona, and in July, my mom wants the AC to be at 70 degrees or lower, and my dad is in a room with no AC, probably sleeping in flannel pajamas. So everybody is unique and has different needs. So it's important to be able to have systems that allow a person to adjust to what they're comfortable to. So while some of this can be achieved by providing a heating and cooling systems that have programmable controls, it's also achievable by providing secondary equipment like a ceiling or a desk fan, which can provide additional comfort. So one good way to look at it is that the air conditioner will cool the room, but a fan can cool the person. Now, when it comes to seniors, don't forget they like it hot. So it's important to give them the option to control the environment and suit their needs. Another thing that's important is to be able to use the equipment. So building in the flexibility and adaptability into the design directly relates to one of the goals of universal design that empowers seniors to manage their own thermal environment. So while properly sized equipments and supplemental equipment like fans are all good, it really doesn't help if the person doesn't know how to use the system. So most likely, if someone doesn't know how to use or operate something, they probably won't use it, or they will use it incorrectly. If seniors or people in general know how to use their equipment, they'll be living more happy and comfortable lives in general. So I'll move on to the next category, which is indoor environmental quality. Per the CDC, indoor environmental quality, IEQ, refers to the quality of a building's environment in relation to the health and well-being of those who occupy the space. It is determined by many factors, such as air quality, moisture conditions, and lighting. We already discussed lighting, so I'll be focusing primarily on moisture and air quality from now. As you know, indoor air quality affects people in different ways. But seniors, however, are considered especially vulnerable because some people have, it's common for people to have asthma, lung disease, or other conditions with compromised immune systems, which make them more susceptible to injury or disease. So mitigating pollutants and optimizing air quality are critical in creating and maintaining a healthy indoor environment. The design strategies that I have listed here are key areas that designers can implement to create a healthy living environment for seniors. The first design strategy is to increase ventilation or fresh air into the indoors. And this can be achieved by providing operable windows wherever it's feasible. And this increases access to both daylight and fresh air and contributes to an enhanced mental health. Another option is to use an energy or heat recovery ventilator, ERVs or HRVs, which are relatively energy efficient systems that strategically deliver fresh filtered air directly into the building's interior. In general, mechanical systems provide a greater level of comfort than what is typically achieved through passive ventilation. But if you can, please consider using both. A combination of strategies may be the best way to optimize your building's ventilation. And speaking of ventilation, it's important to also mention how important it is in our current situation and to be able to have that option and have increased filtered or fresh air come into the unit, which leads us to filters, which is an incredibly effective strategy to ensure that we're providing seniors with improved air quality. Some of the key strategies are to select ventilation systems that utilize filters with a MERV 13 rating or higher. In case you don't already know, MERV stands for Minimum Efficiency Reporting Value, and the higher the number, the better the filter is at trapping specific types of particles, such as dust, pollen, mold, and other airborne particulates that might trigger respiratory issues. It's important to also consider that installation and maintenance are critical when it comes to L filtration. If the filters are not properly fitted to the equipment, it sort of defeats the purpose. And it's also important for homeowners or staff to know when and how to replace dirty filters on a regular basis so that they can really perform to the best of their ability. Another design strategy involves choosing materials, finishes, and cleaning products with low chemical emissions and toxicity. I know this is very popular and very common in California. But overall, it's by not introducing toxins into the living environment from the beginning, you already have a head start on maintaining a healthy interior. You don't really have to be an expert to know how to select healthy materials. It's easy to find materials that have the third-party certification, and this means that they've been evaluated against specific content or emission standard. When possible, also considered an integrated pest management policy for your building, which focuses on strategies that include proper sealing and of the building's exterior and proper waste management over the use of pesticides, which can be harmful to someone's health, especially someone that's vulnerable. And finally, for this category, moisture is a critical variable, moisture management. We talked about humidity levels earlier, but the presence of dampness and bulk water are primary concerns for preventing respiratory illnesses. For example, increased mold often equals an increase in asthma. And as we've discussed, seniors and those with compromised immune systems are more susceptible to mold and other health effects. Simple strategies to manage moisture include moisture resistant materials like at wet areas, particularly like non-paper faced tile backer boards at tubs and showers, and also selecting durable waterproof finishes that can be easily cleaned and won't retain or hide the presence of moisture. Now these are pretty common in senior housing projects, but overall, it's good to have materials that are easily cleaned. And moving on to the next category, which is active design. When it comes to senior citizens, staying active is very important to be healthy and happy. Per the CDC, some of the main issues affecting seniors are the loss of strength and mobility due to aging, which is generally caused by less physical activity. So it's no surprise that people, as they age, lose muscle mass as they become more sedentary. And this sort of turns into a vicious cycle. So it's important to have that option available. So typically by age 75, 1 in 3 men and 1 in 2 women, this is not surprising, will engage in little or no physical activity. So by age 75, most people are retired or they're spending most of their time at home. So it's not surprising that people will have these issues. So having the ability to stay active is essential. And as designers, we have to find ways to encourage this. There are many ways to stay active, as you know, but seniors might refrain from engaging in physical activities as simple as walking because the built environment could be perceived as dangerous. Staying active helps maintain the ability to be independent. It improves strength and flexibility, and it can reduce anxiety and depression, among many, many other benefits. It's essential to allow seniors to stay active. So the first design strategy for this purpose is to design user-friendly pathways. And these are basically pathways that are safe to perform any physical activity. So, and this can be, the images show something that are this outside, but it can also be indoors. Consider providing interior circulation paths that are more inviting And instead of hiding the stairs, think about designing a grand staircase that is more attractive. It's some of these standards that I mentioned earlier, like Fitwel, have this in their standards because it encourages people to take the stairs and to stay more active. So there could be benefits such as improved blood circulation and improved heart and lung function simply by taking the stairs. And I've seen this, and it's not uncommon to see older people take the stairs even when there's an elevator available, just because the stairs are inviting. In addition to having more inviting pathways, also think about furnishings that can make life easier on these pathways. So, for example, if you're in an outdoor space, and you have like benches, consider providing, well, in addition to providing the benches, provide space for a person to sit next to a bench, a person in a wheelchair, like a sort of a clear floor space that allows someone in a wheelchair to chat with someone sitting on a bench without being right in the middle of the path. We talked about lighting already. So a well-lit space can really be the difference between safety and injury or even death. Seniors are not likely to go outside if the space is not well lit after dark, because a well-lit space would promote the perception of safety, and a poorly lit space could be identified as dangerous or as promoting an opportunity for crime. So when thinking of lighting, think of lighting that is uniform and evenly distributed, because confusing lighting patterns can cause accidents. I just look at the on the bottom right on your screen. It looks very pretty with the lighting, but it's hard to tell where the steps begin and where the lights are, or if these are all steps. And somebody that might have a cognitive impairment might not really know what's happening here. So it can be very confusing and dangerous. In addition to this, also consider providing appropriate lighting at all entrances, steps, and signage so that a person can better orient themselves and their surroundings. Continuing with some of these safety features, keep in mind that open sightlines, wide usable routes, clearly defined circulation paths, and optimal lighting will all help everyone feel safe and protected from physical harm, while also reducing anxiety. When stairs and ramps are along a route, ensure that the edge protection is provided and that handrails meet or exceed accessibility requirements. On the bottom right, it's something that's called a Stramp, which is a very interesting design, but it's usually presented as a universally designed feature, but at the same time, I see a lot of issues with something that has no protection for someone going up and down the ramp. And yes, there is an elevator nearby, so it's usable. But at the same time, I wonder how safe something like this is. So think of layouts that are safe and easy to navigate. And at the same time, think of materials that are and patterns that are not confusing. As interesting as design might be, think of people with low vision or cognitive impairments when designing out indoor and outdoor spaces. Last but not least, we have wayfinding. As people age, memory loss and difficulty in getting oriented become more common, especially for people with cognitive impairments. Getting around can be very challenging and a big obstacle that keeps people from being more active. So it is crucial to provide clearly visual information. And this can be achieved by providing signs, landmarks, surface changes, as long as they're safe, colors, even smells, sounds, and so on. Any of these features can help allow a person create a mental map and therefore provide more freedom to get around and hopefully remain active. For example, one thing where universal design goes above and beyond the minimum prescriptive guidelines of accessibility has to do with signage. In addition to the required ADA signage, consider placing more visible signs or features that help people navigate the space more easily. Think about the location of these signs or features, and think about the population that you're designing for. So, for example, it's very common for people that are older to not be able to stand upright or to shuffle their feet or to constantly look down because they're not able to look up as easily. So consider the lines of sight for all abilities. And finally, just avoid any abrupt changes in direction or confusing layouts that can create anxiety and fear to leave one's immediate surroundings. And while I'm speaking about wayfinding, this can be inside and outside, like I said, and also even within an apartment or a home, it's just providing sufficient lighting and conditions that allow a person to know where they are. Think of someone waking up in the middle of the night and they need to go to the bathroom. It's important to make it easy for these people to get to the bathroom if they have any cognitive impairment or just being confused from being half asleep. One example of this is, which I see very often in memory care facilities, is that there's a direct line of sight from the bed to the toilet or to the sink, so that the person immediately knows or can understand where they need to go if they wake up and they're not sure what's happening. So there are many strategies to provide wayfinding at all locations and help people stay active. So now that we concluded with these design strategies, it's important to know that it is critical to design for an aging population. Designing buildings that promote health and inclusivity help support and protect seniors. And this is all very doable as long as we strategize. A lot of things are, yes, required by certain building certifications or the building code, but it's important to include more and more to really help everyone lead a healthier life. One way to begin is by simply putting the concepts and strategies we discussed today into practice as a basis of design for projects going forward. Think of setting reasonable and attainable goals that might include mitigate glare or properly size an HVAC system. And having these strategies as a starting point during the early design process will be more likely successful because it'll be probably executed throughout the design and construction, operations and maintenance phases. So also consider having charrettes and collect feedback from stakeholders that include the point of view of the population you're designing for, in this case, the senior population, to address their specific issues. In a recent survey that I read from a developer, one of the things that seniors wanted in these senior housing facilities was to have more storage. So this is another place, I did not mention it earlier, but it's another place where universal design is critical to help someone have storage that they can actually use and they can reach. So overall, as a result of incorporating these strategies, you'll be in a better position to incorporate specific health and wellness and universal design strategies that serve the seniors population. So in our collective efforts to go above and beyond simply complying with building or accessibility codes, there are many tools available to help us address and resolve health risks. For example, for universal design and active design guidelines, there are programs and certifications, and there are also certification programs that grant credits such as Indoor Air Plus, LEED, WELL, FitWell, Enterprise Green Communities, and a few others that projects and teams can pursue. So we can really draw from these resources so that our built environment can actively protect and positively impact the senior citizens starting today. And basically, we're all heading in that direction, so it should really be on our radar. Whether people choose to age in place or in a senior living facility or with close relatives, people should have the ability to have an inclusive and flexible built environment that meets their needs as they arise. So I will end with this quote, which reminds us that there are no old people in the world. There's only you and me a few years from now. Now I'll open up to questions. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll start sharing my screen.
And Sam, I am checking the chat line. There's no messages there now. So at this point,
Okay.
people could really just come off mute and ask away.
Yeah, this is Jeff Geisen. I understand the need for higher lighting levels for seniors that have visual impairment, but we also in California have Title 24 that basically restricts those lighting levels. How do you balance those two requirements?
Well, I think it just has to be an optimal balance to find a combination of lighting sources and lighting intensity that works. I don't have a specific solution for this, but I think it really, as I mentioned, the use of different surfaces and where the light is coming from, I think can all help address these issues. At least, for example, with mitigate glare, which I mentioned, you have a floor that's reflective, like a vinyl floor, or just too much daylight. It's just really finding a balance. But it's a combination of things. It's not a one size fits all solution. It just has to be combined, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nothing in the chat. So Sam,
Okay.
unless others want to come off mute and ask questions, then you all have 15 minutes left in your lunch hour. Okay, so again, remember for learning units to email Marilee Edgar, medgar@aiaoc.org. It is in the chat. Oh, now I see there are a couple. Let's see. Nice presentation. That's one of them. You got a couple of those, Sam. That's always good. In the chat line as well is Marilee's email address if you want to take a photo of it or something. Many of you already know that, but that's the way she can record the units. So please make sure that you do email her. And Sam, I'm not seeing anything else. I'll just turn it back to you and let you end this when you want to.
Okay. No, I mean, I think if there are no questions, I'm just want to say thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. And if you have any questions, either now or later, please, my contact information is on the screen still, I believe. So please feel free to reach out and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks. It was great.
Thank
Sam.
you.
Thank you.
And Sam, I see you had Peter was on, and the other person might have been Camilla, but I think I'm saying it wrong.
Okay, yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah, and they were going to join by YouTube. I've got to check and see. It says it's live, but maybe it didn't stream it. So I'm going to keep this open a little bit and see if I can figure out why.
Okay.
But you guys, the rest of you, I see there's three of you there, unless you all want to chat for a little bit.
Well, I know Andy and I know Kayla, so.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Well, unless it's not Caleb that I know, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Do they work with you?
They're in Stephen Winter Associates, yes.
Yeah, there were quite a few people, and I told Marilee by another email that they were probably part of your company, and because I knew that Peter certainly was, and so which is perfectly fine. You know, that happens a lot. It's always good to have other people in there. Well, here's a new message. Let's see what this is. from Andy. Says, hi, Sam. Thanks for the great presentation.
Thank you, Andy.
All right. I got to figure out how to stop this live video. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, I sure don't see it listed. That is so odd. I'm not subscribed. So it is. Okay.
Would you be getting questions on YouTube Live? Is that an option or only?
No.
Here?
Well, and that's what I'm trying to find out is it's really just you and I, and Kayla looks like maybe is at least still plugged into the meeting. It was just supposed to be streaming live, and I can't figure out why it didn't do that, because it's still showing that this is live right now on my host screen. And
Okay.
so that's why I'm keeping it open right now, is I want to see if I can figure this out. So you're really done at this point.
Okay. Should I sign off?
Yeah, you can go ahead and sign off. That's fine. This is just me doing some housekeeping, seeing what I can figure out here about this thing.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Sam. Sure appreciate it. It was a good program.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's I know it's California has a lot of these things covered. So it's a lot of these things are probably very familiar to a lot of the guys, but it's just really the combination of different things to try to do a little something that's something a little bit better for.
Yeah.
That's really the intention. And
what I did notice about the attendees, it was very mixed. I mean, there were people I know that are actually interior designers that were sitting on this call. There were quite a few people from the Newport Beach Gensler office, which is predominantly interiors, that had signed up for it as well. So I think that's great. That's a really nice draw when we're bringing in folks from other parts of the profession, and not just the architects. That means that we broaden the type of things that we offer.
well, that's good to hear for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many people attended in general? I didn't really.
I saw there was 30 some at some point.
Okay.
So it was 32 or 3 or 5. It was one of those. Can't recall what it was.
Okay.
And they were on all the way to the end. We didn't have people.
Okay.
Yeah.
No deserters.
Yeah. You know, that's why we have an email at the very end. Because it's tough working from home, and you got kids, it's lunchtime, you got work, you know, I mean, you can easily get distracted, but our members have learned, you know, that they need to email her to let them know. And she still goes through and does an attendance. So Mary Lee was here for like the first 15, 20 minutes, checking out who all was in the participants and noting them. So
Okay.
it's not even really like they have to email her. We just make them do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, let me read the chat for a minute.
Yeah, go for it.
There's only a few lines, but
Yeah, I really thought you would have had more questions.
well, that's either good or bad. So I'll
Well,
just think it's
you
good.
got people saying it was a great presentation, and it was. I was even texting Marilyn saying, Sam's doing a really good job. Some
Okay.
presenters are just dull. Hey, it might be a great program. It is. You've got a voice that carried really well, and
Okay.
and you had good visuals. It was a good topic. So no, I really think it was a good program.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, good. Well, thank you for having us.
Of course. Yeah.
Maybe we'll meet sometime. I'm really dying to go to California, but who knows when that will be possible, right? I mean, I've been to Arizona a few times, and it's so stressful. And yeah, I had to go when I went for the holidays. I quarantined for a week. Like once I got there and they got tested, and finally I saw my parents after all that.
Yeah.
It's just like so
It's
stressful.
tough. The big vacation this year was 3 nights renting a house in Palm Springs that had its own pool. And my sister and brother-in-law were here. We took our own food with us. We did go out and walk around wearing masks, but I mean, it was really all about just staying in, barbecuing, hanging in a pool. That was it. I mean, you just can't do anything. And actually, one of our workmates, Sharon, now she hasn't been in the office for a long time. Her husband got COVID a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
And then her sister, who lives with them, tested yesterday positive. No, the day before. And Sharon tested positive yesterday. And she said she went outside on the deck last night, and all of a sudden it just hit her. So, that's the thing, is who knows where he got it from, but that's why we all kind of stay away and wear masks, so that, because fortunately she's healthy, but you never know what can happen.
Yeah, you can't let your guard down for 1 second, because
I don't know.
it's insane. I know people that have basically, like older people that have stayed home for most of the time since March, and they still got it, probably from the gas station or something like that. But
Yeah, that's right.
something as simple and silly as that, or
Yeah. I've got friends who, their dad stayed home, and it was just that one time that he forgot and got into a crowd. Next thing you know, he got it.
yeah.
And it's just, you're right. You can't let your guard down. In fact, Mary Lee's at the office. She just left. So now I'm going to go over there. Fortunately for us, the way the place is laid out, it's all about programming. So we have an event space that holds 80, 90 people. And we have a conference room that holds 25. There's only 3 of us in the office otherwise. And it's really, I mean, we're in separate offices. So we could be there, but why? There's just no reason to. There's certain things I have to do. There's like accounting things and paying bills. I have to do at the office, pick up the mail. That's really what I'm going to do this afternoon. But, you're right. You just can't let your guard down.
And I have to tell you, it's been hard this winter. Like I was fine here, like up to like even December was fine. Then I left for a month. I came back, and it's just been so difficult. I mean, at least the days are longer now. But like back in January, the days were short. And then there's nothing to do. Everything's closed. Or even if I wanted to go to a museum, they close at 5. So then I have to work. I can't just go middle of the day.
Yeah. You're right. I do feel for folks like yourself that are in areas where you really have seasons.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've got the sliding door open.
Yeah.
And I can get outside.
Yeah. Just rub it in now. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I would go crazy if I was stuck somewhere and truly couldn't get out. Even just go out for a walk.
Yeah, that's all I do. It's I've walked this block like 3,000 times probably.
Yeah. Oh man.
Right. Jeff, thank you so much for all your help and for having us. And we'll meet again, I hope.
Okay.
I'll
Sounds
come
good.
visit in California. Yeah.
Yep. Let me know.
I will.
Okay. All right. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Let's see. I just don't get it. Yeah, I don't see it. So what do I need to do here? Okay.